Welcome back to Business AM, and just in case you're just joining us, my name is Ingrid Nantege, and we're now going into that part of the show where we look at the business issues shaping Kenya's economy. And with me in studio is one of my favorites, Abraham Muthogo, CEO of Miradi Capital. You're very welcome to the show, Abraham.
Thank you very much.
You know, I'm always so happy to see you.
Pleasure to be
I don't
here.
mean to play favorites, but I can't help myself today.
Thank you.
So today we have very exciting stories to look at. Should we get into it?
Yes, let's do.
All right. Now, the first story, Kenya's population is up by 9 million in a decade, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data. Kenya's population expanded 9 million in 10 years to 47.6 million. From the analysis, there are 24 million females, 23.5 million males, and 1,524 intersexes in the country. Nairobi is the most populous county, I beg your pardon, followed by Kiambu, Nakuru, Kakamega, Bungoma, and Kilifi. This is the first census conducted under the 2010 Constitution. Looking at, this is the first census conducted under the 2010 Constitution. Now, Abraham,
Yes.
with the just information I've just given you, Kenya's population is up. Right now, we're standing at 47.6 million.
Yeah.
What do you make of this? What do these figures mean? What should we, so they've told us the results are out. What does this mean to us as a country?
See, the reason people are counted, or rather the reason they conduct a census, is purely for purposes of planning.
Yes.
Because, when you can count them, you can do anything to them. But if you can't count them, then you don't know where they are.
Right.
Because when you're doing a census, you want to know where people are, what fuel they're using, how many are men, how many are women, and now we have a new one, an intersex. You see? So we want to know all those demographics. Now, we are at 47.6, give or take. That population doesn't mean anything as an absolute number.
Right.
Yeah, because it just means that we were less and now we are more.
Right.
But when the detail is what matters. Where are the people? Because now if you look at Nairobi alone, it's almost a population of almost 5 million. It has more people that it has more than double
Yes.
the county that follows, I think which is Kiambu.
Yes.
Now, for purpose of planning now, they look at the population total, how many men, how many are women, what is the breakdown of age, how many people are between 0 and 18 and 20, because for planning purposes we need to know all those things in terms of health, in terms of schools, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of healthcare. And we also want to know, are we now, because of improved healthcare, improved life, are we going to have a healthcare issue in terms of an aging population?
Right.
Because the life expectancy, you can see, is also going up. So when it goes up, it means people will stay around longer. And when people stay around longer, they have a tendency to get sicker as they stay on. So you have a double dependency component of people below the age of 18 and then people above the age of 65. Those two groups of people are dependent on the middle section, the so-called working and active population. So, in a nutshell, because this is just the first phase, they're here to unpack most of this information.
Yes.
But what is critical is that, and as the president said, the ministries now must take this information and mainstream it into their planning. You see, because even now we even know up down to the sub-county how many people are there. And how they're dispersed in this country. And if you look at there's a map they've done for the dispersion, I think we are better dispersed than we were 10 years ago. That means people have, maybe because of devolution, maybe because of pressure of land, I don't know which one it is, but if you look at the dispersion, is much better, especially in the arid and semi-arid areas. We have more people who have moved to that side. So in a nutshell, I think the number may not tell you much, but it's how much you can unpack those numbers and what it is that you're looking for. Because you cannot consume this data in totality. I think you have to go in and check what you want and pull it out and apply it for what it is that you want.
But Abraham, from what we know so far,
Yes.
which is the numbers, and also against the backdrop of you saying the primary role of the census, which we all know is planning,
Yes.
and that also in the realities of Nairobi County having almost double the numbers of the next county. My question then is, what should we expect from the government in terms of planning against the fact that even in the recent past, like we've already seen so many fights against, like, oh, not enough revenue to counties, like there's already been so much. So What should we expect in terms of tightening up, in terms of now getting it right with resource allocation and planning for different countries? Like the fact that now they know the exact number, will it make things better or no?
Because see, revenue is shared using a formula, and that formula is developed by the CRA. Now, that formula takes in consideration the counties, the size in terms of acreage of the county, the population, the poverty index, and other smaller facts, including how well you consumed the last and what you did with it. Now, you can imagine we've probably been using data that is either 10 years old,
right, or
is imputed based on that, on the last time we did the census. Because you see, every time we used to say we are 50 million, you see, we were not 50 million, we are 47 million. See, that's what normally, that is normally the folly of estimation. Estimation has its limitations, and you can see we were not on the right track. So it means even the estimations we are doing for the counties are also off.
Right.
You see, so that means there are counties that we gave more money than we should have.
The counties that probably got less.
Yeah, the less that we should have. But again, when you go to the total pot, remember that is also in contention. How do we arrive? Because we are using budgets that are passed to calculate what the total pot of what. Remember, they had to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and finally they just agreed, you know what, we'll take what comes our way. But this now presents fresh data for us to put into that formula and calculate. Because at the end of the day, what we are trying to say is that every Kenyan is equal. And if you're privileged, then the Kenyan who is less privileged should get more than you.
Right.
Because you know, there's a difference between equality and equity.
Yes.
So this is not about equality.
It's about
equity. If somebody in a challenged area needs more resources than I, then I should have no problem complaining. Because I'm already privileged. I'm sitting here in Nairobi.
You're not doing as badly.
Yes. But you see, you'll still hear people clamoring that those people have been given more than us. But what they're not being honest about is that person actually needs much more money. Because the playing field
is not level.
So we have, and that's why we have that formula, to try and levelize. Because as time goes by, yes, it will never be completely level, but it can reach a point where we can share equally without having any negative repercussions. Right. But if you try to do that now, then what we'll do, we'll marginalize those areas even more. Yes.
Okay, moving on. Business rivalry derails JKIA railway link turf wars, and tendering fights have derailed construction of a railway line linking Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to Nairobi city center, leaving a deal signed by French President Emmanuel Macron and President Uhuru Kenyatta on the verge of collapse. The Treasury has raised the red flag over the secret procurement of a group of French firms to build the new railway line, whose costs have not been made public, and has declined to commit funds following a request from the Ministry of Transport. The Transport Ministry informed the Treasury that a consortium of 5 French companies led by Aegis Group had been tapped for the railway project on a back of a financing deal provided by Paris and commercial lender BPI France Assurance Export, drawing protests from Kenya Railways. Now, first and foremost, Abraham.
Yes.
What's going on?
You see
what's happening?
The French president came here and a deal was signed. Now, at that level, when you sign a deal like that, it's a government-to-government deal. I do not have the details. That's all I know.
Right.
However, what is clear to me is that for government to procure, a government or government agency to procure any service or good, there are only 2 ways. Either using the Public Procurement Act or the PPP Act. Now, in this case, a French consortium has been brought on board, and I use the word brought, on board to do the link.
Right.
Now, the process has gone to the extent of now we want to secure the funding to do that. So when the PS of Transport writes to the PS of Treasury, the PS of Treasury tells him, first of all, tell me how these people came on board. The PS of Transport, in his effort to justify his position, because he has even been asked for a cabinet approval, tries to onboard Kenya Railways. But Kenya Railways goes against him and tells him, no, actually, this thing should have been done by us, because we are a procuring entity. We should have been the one to do it. If it's PPP, it would have been us,
right,
as the PPP unit. If it's procurement, it would still have been us. Now, so what is not even clear is how are they coming in? As a PPP or is it procurement? If it's procurement, this is direct procurement. Why? So you see, there's a lot of, and with that, I can tell you, nobody's going to append their signature after what has been happening. And don't forget that the PS Treasurer is a new guy and has seen what his predecessor is currently going through.
Right.
So I think what needs to be clear, because by the time the presidents were signing that MOU, I think their minds were clear what they wanted to do. I think somebody has dropped the ball. And especially, and I see that succeeding more under the PPP Act than the Procurement Act. Because in the PPP Act, it's exempt explicitly from the Public Procurement Act. So that to me may be the easier way. But they have to clean up all. There has to be a cabinet approval, and there has to be clarity around the process. And if the process is flawed, they need to clean it up, and that's not hard to do.
Right.
But the way it is now, it looks very murky. Don't forget, we are also still debating about the metro they want to do from airport all the way to Westlands. Again, the question is, do you need it? Because if you have a rail, then why do you want to do that? So all these questions need to be answered, and and sometimes it's good to look at things together instead of looking at them in silos. Because don't forget, all of them are coming from the same ministry, the Ministry of Transport. So the question is, do you want to do them both? Is it that urgent that we have two means of transport from the airport into town? Whereas the other sectors that, don't forget, we are living in times when we have very scarce resources. So we really must think hard and fast what we really want to do with our money. And whether this, yes, being a priority, but is it now?
Abraham, in line with what you're saying, yesterday the American Chamber of Commerce Business Summit opened up, and one of the key things that came out, like from the US side, they were talking about the fact that corruption is such a big problem in Kenya. In fact, they were saying they're trying not to even commit funds to development or projects, saying Kenya actually has the resources we need to do whatever we have to do. They just need to be better managed. Against that, my question is, and in line with this story, is this another potential corruption case? What do you make of the entire situation?
You see, people are entitled to their opinions, as always. And I never want to comment about people's opinions because they are opinions.
Right.
And they got them from wherever they got them from. But yes, it is true. We are not exactly a corruption-free country, you see, on the other hand. But insofar as this deal is concerned, it must be looked at purely from the cost-benefit perspective. Is there cost and benefit? Is there benefit? And does the cost justify? That's the question we need to answer. And then add a dimension of time. Do we need to do it now? To me, that's what should happen. Don't forget, there's American interest, there's Chinese interest, there's French interest. So you see,
there's a lot of
sovereign interest. So sometimes you need to be very careful who is saying what to who about who, because they also have their own interests. So that's why I like steering clear of those kind of opinions, because they may be saying it with their own intentions. But what we should stay at, numbers don't lie. We crunch these numbers and see what does the feasibility of this project say.
Right.
That's what we should base our arguments on.
Moving on. Is Safaricom lowering M-Shwari Fuliza charges? Could we be seeing it right? Well, Safaricom is considering lowering the customer charges on its M-Pesa overdraft facility Fuliza and M-Shwari loans amid pressure from the state to curb unregulated digital mobile lenders who charge elusive monthly interest rates. The telecoms operator reckons it wants to lower the cost of accessing the borrowing products as part of a larger plan that will see more features added on the M-Pesa platform, including insurance and wealth management. Safaricom's push to lower Fuliza and M-Shwari charges coincides with the penetration of unregulated microlenders in response to the growth in demand for quick loans, which have left borrowers with high interest rates. Let's decipher how this works. Those borrowing 1,000 shillings on Fuliza pay a one-off of 1% or 10 shillings and a daily charge of 10 shillings, and this translates to a monthly charge of 31% or an annualized fee of 372%. This is way above the maximum regulated annual bank interest of 13%. Too inviting, not too wanting. Abraham, actually, to be completely honest, I've never looked at the breakdown of these charges the way it's been broken down here. It's exorbitant.
It has always been. It's just that you're waking up now.
What?
These numbers are always like this. You see, in any economy where people are looking for credit, there are two components. There's access to credit, there's the cost of credit. What takes the day initially is access.
Right.
You will access credit at whatever it comes at, because at least you have access to it.
Right.
But when access becomes so rampant and available, then the debate switches to price. That is what is happening now. So many players have come to this market. There's no problem as to who. If now I want an app loan, I'll get
You
it
have
right
options.
now before I leave this show. So because of that now the debate has moved to who is cheaper, because money is money. So the debate is purely what is your price, what are your terms. If you look at for example Safaricom's cost, it's even higher than some of the Shylocks we have.
Right.
Yes. So as we call these people bad names, we should call everybody the bad names. We are very selective.
Right.
Because some are branded, so they're not bad. But if you go to the numbers, they're making tons of money. So even when you talk about unregulated, what do you mean? You see, when you say something is unregulated, it almost actually casts the guy who you're saying is not regulated in bad light. And I don't think it's a fair comment.
Right.
Because this is a contract between a willing buyer and a willing seller. So the issue of regulation does not even arise, because what are you going to regulate me? And I'm the one who has access to that price. So for me, the time has come. This price has come down, because they know if they don't, let me tell you, price can wipe you out of the market easily. And I'm sure they know if the people who have data is them, so they can see that, they can see what's happening. So they want to position themselves, because they are positioned. If they bring it down, they'll move the market down. So in that respect, it's a good thing, because who wins? It is the consumer that wins.
Right.
Yes.
But then, Abraham, already there's a very big problem. Like, we've had the uptake of digital loans is almost out of control.
Yes.
They're on a steady increase by the day. Lowering interest rates is only going to increase this uptake.
Yes.
What are the repercussions? Like, what's the end goal?
The repercussion is that we are drowning in domestic debt.
Right.
No, not personal debt. Debt that people take debt to pay their shopping. So it's sunk debt. So we will reach levels where in developed countries where you find the credit card per person is about 6 credit cards.
Right.
So this is our credit card. So we are going to get there. And you see, we're in a state where the economy is not doing very well. So people are borrowing to meet their ends, but they're not very clear how they're going to pay.
Right.
And to be honest, they don't.
And that's a bigger problem.
And to be honest, they don't care.
As long as I have money.
Yes, because you see, what will that person do to you? Nothing. Exactly. The worst they can do is to bring my name to you guys.
Exactly. Just list you
CRB.
and life will walk on the streets
And then after
scot-free.
that, yes. So Kenyans don't seem to have a problem with CRB. So these apps also now, that's where we are going to reach a point of can't pay, won't pay. And when it reaches there now, we will have a crisis, because there's so much consumption debt that people have soaked in because they can, hoping that the future will be better. If the future is not better, then they won't pay. Yeah.
Moving on. Life ban for executives and directors of state corporations. Executives and directors of state corporations convicted of corruption will get a life ban from serving in the public service and have their assets auctioned to recover lost funds if Parliament adopts a proposed law. The life ban is an upgrade from the current law that currently bars those found guilty of economic crimes from holding public office for 10 years after their conviction. The Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Bill 2019 seeks to have the executives and directors take personal monetary responsibilities for losses brought about by their corruption dealings. Currently, the state must prove personal benefit from graft before seizing assets, but the proposed law wants those in authority to pay back cash equivalent to the losses suffered via their economic crimes. Is this what we've been waiting for all our lives? Is this finally the right move and step towards fighting corruption? What do you make of this information, Abraham?
You see, in any intervention, there's a carrot and there's a stick.
Yeah,
this
true.
is a stick. So I think they're just making the stick harder and longer, because there's a law in place.
Right.
10 years, and they still try and follow your assets. But this law, what this law is making is making it very, very draconian. That you'll never serve in public office.
Right.
And we will
Ever.
we will come for you.
You will pay back.
We will come for you
every penny.
To the extent of the loss you cost, not what you benefited from.
Yes.
We will come for you. So that is scary. But more importantly, when you go to the carrot side, we need to have a very decent conversation around who are we putting in these offices and what is this process? How come this process keeps getting it wrong? We have Chapter 6, we have all these tools,
Right.
but how come we still get it wrong?
Why? How come?
Yeah, so that's the conversation we need to have with ourselves and evaluate what are we getting wrong, because it is better to prevent than to cure.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yeah. So if you can, the prevention comes in these tools. Through is it the interview process? Is it the vetting process? Where are we losing the ball? Because we go through all this, these guys come in a year, they've done stuff, and then we have to go through this law. I mean, don't forget, the curing such a thing, you have to take someone through a justice step. It's very costly.
It's a process.
And even getting a conviction, because money can buy good lawyers, and money can buy even other things, which I don't want to say. But the thing is, it's better we prevent. Let's change our national ethos, our national fabric, our national aspirations, that doing good is a good thing, that crime does not pay, that the straight and narrow is the way to heaven, and let's stay on that path, and that sometimes less is more. You know, we don't have to amass $1 billion or $2 billion to be happy.
Right.
So this ethos must be, we have to start right there in school. Sometimes people are going up. We stop this thing of glorifying thieves and glorifying people who we know have not collected their money well, but since they are doing well, they have become our heroes. So let's now come up with new heroes, people who have earned their money the right way, and people who are willing to say no and not earn as much as they would have earned, but sleep better at night.
So, Abraham, what you're saying is the intention for this move might be good, but the execution might be problematic. So rather prevent than cure the problem.
You see, what I'm saying is, like for example, robbery violence gives you a death sentence.
Right.
But it is not true that crime has gone down because we execute people.
Agreed.
People. So sometimes punitive action, you can go to the end. Even if we make this, even if you say we're going to kill people who have stolen money, they'll still steal. Why? Because that incentive. Sometimes we also need to disincentivize this whole process. That is, we need to remove these incentives of stealing. But again, it boils down to who is Ingrid, who is Abraham, what are you made of, how are you brought up,
Right.
what are your ethos? Do you believe there's God? And do you believe that you'll meet God one day and account for the things that you did on earth? If you know you'll meet God, you will not do these things.
Abraham, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Business AM. As usual, you always bring that extra. You always bring that extra,
Thank you.
explanation and illustration. You always leave me so much smarter. I appreciate you for it.
Thank you. I appreciate
So
it.
that's where we wrap it up today on Business AM. However, don't go anywhere because we have so much more amazing programming coming your way right here on Metropole TV. And you can also keep the conversation going on our social media pages at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I've been your host, Ingrid Nantege. Have a beautiful day.